The Stump, you had any interesting Bible studies you done recently?
You know what been catching my attention, which I would like to ask Dustin has an insight on. I've been seeing how the pyramids of Egypt. I've been studying about how they were built, you know, and how they constructed certain of their statuary and uh, their granite boxes and all this they find. And consensus seems to be among people who investigate the stuff that either they had advanced technology that we don't know about, or that aliens came down. Those are like the two options, right? And did these things. But I think what I'm thinking is that these things were built right after the flood, when everything, all the sediments and stuff were still mixed up. The volcanoes were still happening, and these things they came upon to construct the pyramids and stuff were were actually still in a transition from being soft material to hardened to rock. And I think this is how they did it, and I think that would reflect the Bible. It would prove the Bible if the flood happened and they built all these things right afterwards. Because if you think about it,
Well, the pyramids, I strongly believe, were built by Noah's grandson. In Hebrew, his name is Mitzrayim, and it means literally Egypt.
yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Which one is this?
This is
Oh,
the
Mitzrayim.
grandson.
His name is Mitzrayim.
In Hebrew, it's Mitzrayim.
Okay, and what does it say? Is that how it's said in the Bible? His name?
I don't remember what they call it in the Bible.
I haven't come upon that yet. About I've looked up Egypt like a word study. I haven't seen a person
Yeah,
that actually had the name Misraim in it. But that's interesting because
let me see
if you
if I
think
can
about it,
find it.
100 years after the flood, they tried to build. Well, I don't know how long it was, but it was right after the flood. They tried to build the Tower of Babel, and were
Stop.
dispersed throughout the world. So I mean, what would stop them from building? You know, continue building. But I think this is a way of proving who God is and what happened and what really happened. And they're looking to advanced technologies and space and aliens. And I think this God's doing right after the flood. This is why they had the access to these materials that they can shape so easily into, like granite that nowadays you can't even carve to the thing they did because it's so hard. It's such a hard rock, and you couldn't possibly carve it with bronze tools and stone hammers. Which they thought they had.
You're talking about granite, right?
Granite, yeah, even limestone would be difficult to. It's a softer material, but it still would be hard to carve with these type of instruments. And you know how much work they did. It's like statuaries everywhere, and and that's all over the world. In Peru and all these megalithic.
I sent you something in the private chat, Stump, to pull up.
Okay.
If you don't mind, you can open that and share your screen, and we'll pop it up for everybody and go over it together.
Cool. You guys see my screen share or not?
Yeah, I'm looking at it now, Stump.
I'm looking at it.
You want me to read it, or it was just for me to look at?
Yeah, I mean, we could all take.
Bro, I'm ready for you to read.
All right, here we go. The introduction. The pyramids are the oldest monuments of civilization on Earth. These structures and relics they contain are the most tangible physical links which our ancient past and provide important clues to our origins, tracing our roots to something that holds a fascination for most of us. Yet there are two diametrically opposed views on how we came to be here. What is this from? Let me see.
Answers in Genesis.
Oh, wait a minute. Answers in Genesis. Is that the one with the Noah's Ark, or is that the other one?
I think this is the one that's connected to Kent Ham.
Yeah, because there's another one called question. What's the other one called? I think is Genesis History. It's pretty.
Yeah, that is a good channel. I have them actually too.
In fact, that's where I got a lot of ideas that everything in the earth was still very moist after the flood and for hundreds of years, and things were drying out. Still, they were not yet dried out and formed. Okay, there is a widely taught historical view which proposes that we humans evolved from lesser life forms over millions of years, resulting in primitive human species about 100,000 years ago, with human skills developing about 10,000 to 20,000 years ago, accumulating in the birth of the first civilization about 5,500 years ago in Sumner, in Egypt. The biblical view proposed that humans were created as fully developed, highly intelligent beings about 6,000 years ago, and there was a destructive worldwide flood about 4,300 years ago, which only Noah and his family survived. The Bible names one of Noah's grandsons as Mizraim. It's a little different spelling, though, isn't it? Well, maybe not. The father of the Egyptians.
Oh,
Thus,
I'm sorry.
the oldest continuous civilization according to both.
Hey, Stump, your
Yeah.
screen went over to something funky, and now you have the Affinity screen on. Did you maybe switch screens?
No, I don't know what happened. Let me see. Is it still funky?
Well, right now I'm seeing your StreamYard. Oh, here we go. All right, we're back. I don't know what that was. That was weird. Go ahead.
All right, we'll get to the juicy part here. Anyways, the Bible's names of one of those grandsons was Mizraim, and the father of Egyptians. Thus, Egypt stands out as the oldest continuous civilization according to both worldviews. The Hebrew name for Noah's grandson, Egypt, was Mizraim. Genesis 10 lists Noah's descendants. Noah's sons were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the sons of Ham were Cush, Mizraim. Yeah. That's right. It comes to me now. Put in Canaan. Canaan was the progenitor of the Canaanites. Yeah, but the part that interests me, it goes on. Okay. The original inhabitants of Palestine. It is not quite clear who descended from Put. Maybe the Ethiopians or the Libyans. There is no doubt about Cush and Mizraim. Egyptian text frequently mentions the land of Cush, which was Nubia or present-day Sudan. Also, Mizraim is named for the progenitor of the Egyptians. Thus, it is not surprising that the present local name for Egypt is Mizra, which is derived from Mizraim. So today in Egypt, we have the Mizra Bank, the Mizra Insurance Company, Mizra Travel Agency. Oh, that's interesting. So we're talking about, wait a minute, his grandson. Noah's grandson.
Yep.
So that's another point I was thinking of. I don't know how much it interests other people, but it really interests me. I think this is a way of proving. In fact, wow, never mind. I got to take that off.
Well, and not just that, man, but
stop sharing.
Mitzrayim being the grandson of Noah and the founding patriarch of Egypt explains why we still don't know what technology they used to build the pyramids. Like, we have a lot of ideas on how it could have been done, but we still don't know. We just have educated guesses.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, and I think the reason is because the grandson of Noah still had access to the pre-flood technologies that are no longer available.
And just think of the boat Noah built. That was a major thing. I mean, to build it as big as he did with the material he used, whatever, it was nothing that was easy or simple. It wasn't a simple thing. I know he's instructed by God, but is that me doing that again, or is it somebody else?
No, it's me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I just I think this is
you were done, right, Stump? I didn't want to cut into your.
Yeah, I was done with that part.
Okay. I just want okay.
So interesting.
In one of the books,
Go ahead.
in one of the books my grandma showed me, they would illustrate how the ancient Egyptians would take a mixture of egg, milk, and honey and a special beetle. Okay, and they would pour it on the rock, and it would loosen the rock, and the beetle would come and eat the stone. Okay, right? That was the theory in this book. That's how they cut the granite, because the granite, I mean, it's obvious. How are you gonna chisel at it with copper or anything like that?
Yeah, that's what they're trying to say. So that you say they're saying the bug came and ate the stone and made it soft, or did he do the design?
No, they had a mixture. They had a mixture, right? That was rich in nutrient that the beetle craved. Okay, so and because of the way that the granite was porous, the nutrient would penetrate into the rock only so deep. The beetle would come and eat. Okay, and then you'd lay another layer, and then the beetle would come and eat, and then you'd lay another layer, and then the beetle would come and eat, right? And that's how they did it. But they didn't have to do small, like long cuts. what they did was they just removed the beetles in between line making.
I see what you're saying.
That was how they did it.
That's interesting. I never heard that concept before. It's really interesting. But they have things
okay.
like,
If you look at the big scoops, if you look at the big scoops, right?
There's something, yeah.
That's how they did it. They fixed little wooden boxes in parallel lines, okay?
Mhm.
And they would move from box to box. And whenever the beetles were done in this box, they'd climb up out of the box and they'd go into the next box, right? And then you just keep doing this, right? And that's how they did it.
Yeah, but yeah, that's pretty interesting because them scoop marks are real cool. I mean, it looks like, to me, when you see them, it looks like someone took a shovel and shoveled it out. You know, it didn't look like it was cut, or they say it was some kind of harder rock pounding balls they used to pound these things in. But
yeah,
the beetles,
diorite balls. They found a bunch of them.
Yeah,
diorite.
but
the thing about the thing about diorite is if you put it under a frequency, it vibrates.
Yeah, that's another thing they were talking about, the vibrations and this and that. I think it's a lot simpler.
Yeah.
I think this all happened almost right after Noah's flood, when everything was still in a state of transition from soft to hard. The volcanic activity was happening. We know it was very moist still, and it took a long time for things to dry out. It looked like all these megalithic structures are found near drainage areas. So that's what I'm leaning towards, and that's what I'm trying to study and figure out. But yeah, it's real interesting to me, and I think it proves God's word. And in fact, in scriptures, it says that God said He will have a sign in Egypt even to this day. So He wasn't talking about just the departing of the Red Sea and things, bringing the Hebrews out of Egypt, but He was also discussing that there's going to be signs of Him in Egypt onto the present day. So. I think
that would make sense because I really believe the pyramids were built in God's honor by the grandson of Noah.
But then his grandson had to be part of the dispersion from the Tower of Babel, right? Because they were all one language, one tongue, and then God came down and dispersed them.
Well, so I don't think we know exactly how long after Noah's Ark was the Tower of Babel, though, right?
They give a genealogy, which I haven't exactly studied yet, but it does. Yeah, we don't know for sure. As far as I know, I've never heard.
Wasn't it in the time of
100 years? 100 years after the flood, I've heard.
I would think that the Tower of Babel came first, but that's assuming that he was even born yet, because they're living to be like 600 years old at that time. Mm-hmm. So some of them aren't even beginning to have children until they're 120. So I mean, I'm not quite sure. That's a whole study on its own.
Yeah, it'd have to be enough people to accomplish these things, because there's all kind of huge things going on in Egypt, all kind of statuary. I mean, they find hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of statues and stuff made out of these materials, and they're all over the world, all different museums. There's some here in Chicago I'm gonna look at, in the University of Chicago, and over here in the South Side I'm gonna go to.